Have you ever watched someone you love grow older and felt a quiet sadness at the small but undeniable changes in their behavior? Perhaps you noticed your grandmother refusing to sit anywhere but her favorite chair at dinner, or your father becoming unusually particular about the way the kitchen utensils are arranged. These shifts can seem strange, even frustrating at times, but behind them lies a deeply human story, one of resilience, fear, and the silent search for stability. As we age, the world does not slow down for us. It rushes forward louder, faster, more confusing. For older adults, this unrelenting pace can be disorienting, even frightening. They are navigating a world that no longer feels like their own, and in response, they often cling to the few things they can still control: routines, habits, and familiar comforts. Take the seemingly simple ritual of always sitting in the same seat at the table. It may seem trivial, but to them, it is a small island of predictability in a sea of uncertainty. Choosing the same chair every night is not just a habit, it's an anchor, a way of reclaiming a sense of control when so much else feels beyond their grasp. Family members may misunderstand these actions, labeling them as stubbornness or eccentricity. But in truth, these rituals are a quiet form of resistance against a world that feels increasingly unfamiliar. They are a way of holding on to identity, of asserting, "I still have a say in my life." Even criticism, the disapproving glance at a newly arranged living room, or the harsh comment about a different recipe, often comes from a place of fear, not malice. When everything around you changes so quickly, even small alterations can feel like losing a piece of the world you once knew so well. These reactions are not about the furniture or the food, they are about the deep, aching fear of losing relevance, of losing control. If we look deeper, we realize that aging is not just a physical process, it is an emotional journey. Every rigid routine, every stubborn preference, every critical comment tells a silent story of a person trying to protect themselves from the overwhelming tides of change and loss. Understanding this truth changes everything. Instead of reacting with impatience or anger, we can choose empathy. Instead of forcing our aging loved ones to adapt to our way, we can meet them where they are with kindness, with respect, and with a willingness to listen to what their hearts are trying to say, even if their words don't always come out perfectly. Supporting an aging loved one is not about fixing their routines or pushing them toward flexibility. It's about offering them the steady hand they need as they navigate their own fears and uncertainties. It's about creating a space where they can feel safe, respected, and, most importantly, still in control of their own lives. One day, we too will find ourselves reaching for the familiar in a world that feels foreign. And when that time comes, we will hope that those around us will treat us with the same patience and compassion we once offered to those who came before us. Aging is not a tragedy. It is a part of life's natural arc, a chapter that, when approached with empathy, can deepen love, strengthen connections, and remind us all of the fragile beauty of time. Imagine a strong, independent man who once built his own house with bare hands, or a woman who raised a family while managing a full-time job. Now, decades later, they find themselves standing at the edge of vulnerability. The stairs feel steeper, the groceries heavier, the days longer. But instead of reaching out, they remain silent, quietly enduring discomfort rather than uttering the simple words, "Can you help me?" For many older adults, asking for help isn't just difficult, it feels like surrender. In a world that glorifies independence, especially in cultures like America's, self-reliance is seen as a virtue, almost a badge of honor. For seniors who have spent a lifetime building, providing, and persevering, this mindset runs deep. The idea of asking for help often feels like admitting defeat, a crack in the self-sufficient identity they've protected for decades. This isn't pride in the traditional sense. It's something more painful: fear. The fear of becoming a burden. The fear of being seen as incapable. The fear that needing help is the first sign of losing control over their own lives. This emotional conflict becomes a silent war within. On one side, there's the obvious reality: the body can no longer do what it once could. On the other, there's the voice inside whispering, "Don't trouble them. Don't become a problem." This inner tug-of-war often ends with the person choosing silence, even if that silence leads to pain, isolation, and declining health. Ironically, their refusal to ask for help is often rooted in love. They don't want their children to worry. They don't want their friends to feel obligated. But in trying to protect others, they end up hurting themselves. And the consequences can be heartbreaking. A missed doctor's appointment. A fall that no one hears about. Groceries that go unbought. Over time, the inability to seek support can spiral into deep isolation. Social invitations become fewer, not necessarily because people stop caring, but because the older adult subtly withdraws, afraid to show their struggles. What starts as physical vulnerability turns into emotional distance. This isolation grows quietly. No one may notice at first. But inside, the older person may begin to feel invisible, like the world is moving on without them, like their needs no longer matter. But the truth is, their needs do matter. And asking for help should never be seen as weakness. So how do we help them see that? It begins with compassion, not pushing, not lecturing, but gently reassuring them that their independence isn't lost by accepting support. Rather, it's strengthened. When they accept help with dignity, they gain the power to continue living on their own terms safely and meaningfully. Creating a safe emotional space is vital. It's not enough to say, "Just ask me if you need anything." We must go further, offering support without judgment, noticing subtle signs of struggle, and most importantly, letting them know they are still in control. That they are still valued. Sometimes, just sitting beside them, listening without interruption, is enough to break through the fear. A small gesture, a hand on the shoulder, an offer to accompany them to the doctor, a shared moment of laughter can remind them that asking for help doesn't mean giving up. It means staying connected. In the end, aging is not about losing strength, it's about learning to share it. And when we show our loved ones that we are here not out of obligation, but out of love, we give them permission to ask. Without shame. Without fear. With the quiet confidence that they are never alone. As we grow older, something subtle begins to happen. Our memories grow louder, more vivid, more comforting than the present. The past becomes not just a collection of moments, but a sanctuary, a safe, familiar place in a world that seems to be changing too fast. For many older adults, this deepening attachment to the past is not merely nostalgia, it is a lifeline. Think about it, the world today is a whirlwind of smartphones, video calls, online shopping, digital banking, and artificial intelligence. To a younger person, these are conveniences. To someone who grew up writing letters by hand, paying bills in person, and knowing their neighbors by name, these conveniences can feel like alien invasions into a life they once understood. This is why the past becomes so important. It's not just about remembering better days, it's about preserving identity. When a person recalls the songs they used to dance to, the people they loved, the home they built, they are reconnecting with a version of themselves that felt strong, secure, and alive. That version might feel distant in the mirror today, but it still exists in memory. These memories aren't just stories, they are emotional anchors. They remind older adults of who they were and what they've endured. A time when life felt simpler, more predictable, and perhaps even more joyful. The routines, the values, the relationships from the past become touchstones of stability in a present that can often feel uncertain and overwhelming. However, when this attachment becomes too strong, it can also create quiet walls. Walls that separate older adults from the present and the people in it. Loved ones may begin to feel hurt or confused. Why doesn't Dad want to try FaceTime? Why won't Grandma join us on a weekend trip? But these refusals are rarely about disinterest or lack of love, they are acts of protection. They come from a place of fear and unfamiliarity. It's not the technology or the event that's being rejected, it's the overwhelming discomfort of a world that no longer feels like home. And when no one bridges that gap, emotional isolation can take root. The older adult may begin to pull further into the past, finding more comfort in memories than in present experiences. New relationships feel difficult to build. New experiences feel too risky. And little by little, life becomes quieter, not because they want solitude, but because it's the only space where they still feel in control. The tragedy is that they are not rejecting us, they are holding on to what they know. What we see as resistance is often self-preservation. So how can we help? Gently. Patiently. With love. It's not about forcing them to catch up with the modern world, but about offering them small, meaningful ways to reconnect on their terms. Teach them how to video call, not with frustration, but with joy. Revisit photo albums, but then take a new picture together. Honor their memories, but help them make new ones. The key is balance, helping them live in the present without asking them to let go of the past. Because the truth is, we all carry our pasts with us. For older adults, that past may simply feel more comforting than ever before. When we approach them with understanding, not pressure, we offer a bridge between generations. A bridge where stories are shared, love is renewed, and moments, both old and new, are cherished together. In the end, helping our elders reconnect with today isn't about changing who they are, it's about reminding them that their story is still being written, and that we are here to write it with them. As people grow older, the world around them often begins to shrink, not physically, but emotionally and socially. The once lively gatherings, spontaneous visits, and busy social calendars slowly fade. What was once noise and connection becomes silence and solitude. For many older adults, this transition is not always by choice, and its effects are deeper than we often realize. Social isolation is not simply about being alone. It is about the absence of meaningful connection. It begins subtly, perhaps they skip a family dinner because they feel tired, or decline an invitation out of fear of being a burden. At first, it seems harmless. After all, everyone needs rest. But gradually, those skipped moments become a pattern. Days stretch into weeks with fewer phone calls, fewer visits, and less laughter. The home, once filled with voices and activity, now echoes with silence. There are many reasons why older adults may retreat. Some are physical: mobility becomes harder, hearing declines, driving is no longer an option. Other reasons are emotional. Many seniors hesitate to ask for company or support, not wanting to seem needy or demanding. This reluctance, though born from love and consideration, often leads to a painful sense of invisibility. What makes isolation so dangerous is that it doesn't just affect the heart, it affects the mind and body too. Without regular interaction, older adults face a higher risk of depression, anxiety, and even cognitive decline. The brain, like any muscle, needs stimulation. Conversations, social games, and shared laughter keep it healthy. Without these, mental sharpness can fade. Physically, isolation often leads to reduced activity. Without the motivation to get up and go out, many seniors become sedentary. This can weaken muscles, reduce balance, and increase the risk of falls or chronic illness. What begins as emotional withdrawal ends up affecting overall well-being in profound ways. The tragedy is that so much of this is preventable. With just a little effort, we can break the cycle. Small gestures, a regular phone call, a weekly lunch date, a shared hobby can make all the difference. It's not about filling every hour of their day, but about making sure they still feel included, valued, and connected to the world. Communities and families play a crucial role here. Encouraging older adults to join local events, connecting them with community services, or simply spending time listening can restore a sense of belonging. It's also essential to respect their pace. Connection should never feel forced, but gently encouraged. In the end, what older adults need most is not constant attention, but meaningful connection. A reminder that they are still seen, still needed, and still loved. Isolation can be powerful, but compassion is more powerful still. As we journey through life, our health becomes an unspoken partner, something we trust will always be there. For many older adults, this trust runs deep. They have spent decades navigating hardships, raising families, and building lives without relying heavily on doctors or medical advice. So when aging inevitably brings physical challenges, many respond not with acceptance, but with quiet resistance. At first glance, it can seem like simple stubbornness. An aging parent refusing to see a doctor about persistent pain. A grandparent brushing off suggestions to get a health checkup. Family members grow frustrated, wondering, why won't they just take care of themselves? But underneath this resistance is a far more complex emotional reality. For older adults, acknowledging a health issue often feels like admitting a loss of control. It's terrifying. Their entire identity, the one that withstood decades of responsibility, sacrifice, and independence, feels at risk. Seeing a doctor means facing the possibility that their body is no longer the reliable ally it once was. That fear runs deeper than pride, it touches their sense of self. There is also the fear of what they might hear. For someone who has always felt strong, the idea of receiving a diagnosis, no matter how small, can feel like a collapse of everything they know. It's not simply about physical health, it's about confronting mortality, vulnerability, and change all at once. Moreover, many older adults come from generations that valued toughing it out. In their minds, unless something was unbearably painful, it wasn't worth mentioning. A sore knee, a nagging cough, a bit of dizziness, these were once seen as part of life, not signs to rush off to a clinic. Changing that mindset isn't easy, especially when medical systems today can feel overwhelming, impersonal, and intimidating. And there's pride, too, a quiet, powerful pride. Many seniors see asking for help or admitting to health concerns as a betrayal of their lifelong self-reliance. To them, needing medication, surgeries, or assistive devices feels like surrendering the independence they fought so hard to preserve. I've managed this long on my own. Why would I need help now, they think. It's not ignorance. It's a fierce, heartbreaking desire to hold on to who they have always been. Unfortunately, this resistance can have serious consequences. Minor health issues left unchecked can escalate into major problems. High blood pressure, untreated infections, unacknowledged pain, all can grow silently, causing damage that could have been prevented with early care. The cost of resistance is not only physical decline but also a deeper emotional burden, one of fear, isolation, and diminished quality of life. So how do we break through this barrier? Not with force. Not with lectures. But with understanding. Patience and empathy are essential. Instead of focusing on the problem, you need to see a doctor, focus on what matters to them, their independence, their dignity, their goals. Frame healthcare not as a surrender but as a tool to help them maintain the life they love. Visiting the doctor isn't giving up, it's fighting for more good years ahead. Offer to accompany them to appointments. Help them ask questions. Show them that seeking care is a courageous, proactive act, not a sign of weakness, but a testament to their strength and wisdom. Ultimately, supporting an aging loved one means respecting both their fear and their resilience. It's about walking alongside them, gently encouraging them to protect the life they've worked so hard to build. Because taking care of their health isn't about losing who they are. It's about honoring who they have always been and making sure they stay strong enough to keep living their story with pride, for as long as possible. As people grow older, their homes often become filled with objects: old clothes, stacks of papers, broken appliances, faded photographs, forgotten trinkets. To the casual observer, it might look like simple clutter or even hoarding. But if we take a closer look, we realize something far deeper is happening. Every item, every pile, every seemingly useless object often carries with it a story, a memory, a sense of identity. Accumulating things is not just about refusing to let go. For many older adults, it is a way of holding on to the past, a means of anchoring themselves in a world that feels increasingly unstable and unfamiliar. As health declines, loved ones pass away, and the once familiar rhythms of life shift, these objects offer comfort. They serve as tangible reminders of a life lived fully, of times when the world felt more manageable, predictable, and safe. An old scarf tucked away in a drawer might seem worthless to anyone else, but to the one who keeps it, it could represent a first love, a lost spouse, or a youth filled with dreams and adventures. A worn-out chair may not be stylish, but it might be the seat from which they watched their children grow, shared morning coffees, or read favorite novels. These possessions are not simply things, they are pieces of their emotional landscape, woven into the very fabric of who they are. In a time of life when so much feels beyond their control, health, mobility, independence, possessions provide a sense of stability. Holding on to belongings can feel like holding on to oneself. Each object is a silent guardian of personal history, a token of resilience through decades of change and loss. However, while the emotional attachment to these items is deeply understandable, the physical reality can eventually become overwhelming. As more and more objects accumulate, living spaces can become cramped and unsafe. What was once a warm, memory-filled home can start to feel chaotic, claustrophobic, and even hazardous. Balancing emotional needs with practical living becomes a delicate, often heartbreaking task. Family members may feel tempted to rush in and clear out what they see as clutter. But doing so without sensitivity can feel like erasing a person's history, dismissing the things that matter most to them. The key is compassion. Instead of judging or forcing change, we must listen. Sit beside them. Hold the objects with them. Let them tell the stories behind each item: the story of the sweater knitted by a late friend, the letter yellowed with time but still filled with love, the broken clock that once chimed through a family Christmas. When we honor their memories, the conversation about letting go becomes easier. It's not about getting rid of the past, it's about choosing which memories to hold on to, and which ones can be kept in the heart instead of the hand. Gentle encouragement can help older adults see that they are not losing their history by simplifying their space. Instead, they are making room for comfort, safety, and peace. We can help them keep the truly precious items, the ones that light up their eyes when they speak, and perhaps say goodbye to the ones that no longer serve them. It's a process of respect and trust. Not rushing. Not forcing. Allowing them to be part of the decisions every step of the way. In the end, it's not really about the things. It's about what the things represent: love, identity, belonging. Helping someone through the journey of letting go is helping them transition from holding on to objects to holding on to connections, memories, and a sense of self that doesn't depend on possessions. Growing older is not about losing, it's about transforming. And if we approach it with patience and tenderness, we can help our loved ones carry their stories forward into the next chapter of life, lighter in possessions perhaps, but heavier in love.